Hi, and welcome to another episode of Hot Takes with me, the Silver Fox. And today we have victory. It's a very small victory, it's possibly only a temporary victory, but the pushback is beginning. And in the world of trans men trying to force and muscle their way into women's sports, we finally have someone who's seen temporary sense at least. This is a story that's been running for a couple of days now. I did a video yesterday and it's regarding Emily Bridges, a man who has been competing as a man up until a few months ago in the world of cycling and who is still registered as male with the cycling governing body. And he was due to race this weekend against the women's champion, even though his record time is something like 8 seconds faster or whatever. He wasn't a very good male cyclist, but he thought he's going to be a cracking lady cyclist. And then there was a big controversy, hoo-ha and fight. And Sharon Davis stepped in. She's saying this is wrong, and she started to push back. Not her sport course. Sharon's a swimmer. But Dame Laura Kenny, she was unhappy with it. She was the one that was going to be raced against. Anyway, there's been pushback. And we're going to have a look. There's 2 articles. One came out first thing this morning. One came out late last night. One it's the same story, just one's been updated. But we'll take a look at the slightly older one first to show you the victory. And then we'll look at a response to that victory. But yeah, ladies, congratulate yourselves. You're starting to win the pushback. You're starting to regain the word woman, because you are being cancelled, and you need to stop it. And finally, I think it's starting to happen. But we'll have a look at this. I'll put myself in my usual little corner, and we'll discuss it. So here's the article from last evening. This came out at updated 23:38. So yeah, very late last night rather than first thing this morning. And it is the pushback, because up until yesterday, this Emily Bridges was going to be competing in this weekend's National Omnium Championship, and now she no longer is. He no longer is. So we'll just go to the headline. British trans rider, I thought it was a cyclist, so riding a bike, but anyway, wants to ride trans, that's fine. British trans rider Emily Bridges blocked from competing in this weekend's National Omnium Championships against Dame Laura Kenny by the World Cycling Body UCI, despite having lowered his testosterone to required levels. Emily Bridges had hoped to compete at the National Omnium Championships. Bridges, who is a former national junior men's champion, has been cleared to compete by British Cycling. However, cycling's world governing body, the UCI, overruled this, as they convene an expert panel to review Bridges' case moving forward. So the British level, the national level in Britain, said it was okay for a man to race a woman. But the world governing body said, hold on, hold your horses, sunshine, pull that one back. We're not allowing it until we've discussed it. So it may only be temporary. They have yet to define the terms or to say that, actually, no, it's going to be okay. Where are they going to go? Because if they say it isn't okay, then they're going to be accused by the tiny number of trans people. Oh, you're transphobic. And if they do say it's okay, then they've just destroyed women's cycling. So they're in a quandary, aren't they? Do we protect women's cycling, or do we just throw all women under the bus just for the sake of 9 people? It's a hard call, because sense would tell you one way to do it, but there's no sense in this, because this is politics and this is fearless people with their giant testicles. Oh no, wait, no, it's cowards. It's cowards and spineless jellyfish, isn't it? That's what it is. So I suspect that the delay will only be a delay. It won't be a ban. But we'll read the story. British transgender rider Emily Bridges has been blocked from competing at this weekend's National Omnium Championships after a ruling by cycling's world governing body. The 21-year-old was due to race in his first women's event at the Derby Arena on Saturday, when he would have been up against 5-time Olympic champion Laura Kenny. Bridges has been cleared to compete by British Cycling, having lowered his testosterone to the required level over a 12-month period, but has not yet reduced the other advantages gained by going through male puberty. However, the UCI, cycling's international governing body, on Wednesday night deemed he was not eligible under their guidelines, and he has therefore been pulled from the competition, avoiding the prospect of a boycott by British female riders. Now, I'm going to say at this point, this was what was going to happen. The other riders had actually done what I suggested as well. I mean, I'm not saying they listened to me, I'm not saying that for one moment, but it's something I suggested in my video, is that, ladies, if you're in a competition, you look left, right, oh, look, there's a man standing next to you, walk away. Well, the women in this case have said if he races, they're walking. And then panic stations ensued. And so the world governing body had to step in and say, we can't have that. So, moving on, British Cycling said in a statement, "We believe that transgender and non-binary people should be able to find a home, feel welcome and included, and be celebrated in our sport. No one is saying they cannot. No one has ever said that a man cannot ride a bicycle. What they're saying is a man may not compete against a woman because it would be blatantly unfair." Under the British Cycling transgender and non-binary participation policy, i.e. the allowance of men to race women, Emily Bridges was due to participate in the British National Omnium Championships in the hope of beating women because he would have had the advantage. We have now been informed by the UCI that Emily is not eligible to participate in this event due to being a man. We acknowledge the decision of the UCI with regards to Emily's participation. However, we fully recognise his disappointment. Well, yeah, he's not going to win. He's not going to race these women and win with his huge slapping cock hitting the saddle as he's pedalling furiously. And there's a picture of him all dolled up in his blouse. And if you look carefully, you can see the old meat and two veg in those rather tight jeans. Not a very convincing woman. And there he is again. Under the respective transgender policies, the UCI and British Cycling require riders to have had testosterone levels below 5 nanomoles per litre for a 12-month period. But they don't require you to have not undergone male puberty and not get all the athletic advantages that brings. Nor do they ever actually cut off a few extra inches of lung capacity and all the advantages that brings. But the UCI allow themselves an extra 6 weeks once the 12-month period has passed to review an individual case, which they will now do with Bridges. As UCI rankings are available and Bridges is still registered as a male rider, they could not allow him to compete in the event. UCI President David Lappartient told the BBC on Wednesday night that he had had concerns about transgender athletes' impact on cycling. Everyone in the sport has had concerns, and everyone has for quite some time expressed those concerns, but British Cycling has ignored those concerns because cowardice. "We recognise the rights of people to change and to make that transition," he said. "I'm a little worried that their participation in women's events will affect the fairness of the competition." That's right, it will destroy the fairness and there will be no competition. It will just be a man winning a race with a load of women coming behind him. Sportsmail understands that British Cycling has also registered Bridges for next month's Track Nations Cup in Glasgow. He was included on their provisional entry list for the international event, opening the door for him to compete for his country as a woman for the first time. Even before the ruling, British Cycling insisted they were not going to select Bridges in their final team for the competition as they wanted to see him race in a women's event first. However, by registering him, they have indicated he is in their thinking for future selections. If Bridges is eventually cleared by the UCI, the former national men's junior champion will be eligible to ride at the Commonwealth Games in Birmingham this summer and the 2024 Olympics, and thus put real women who have struggled, worked hard, given up everything for their sport, will now no longer have a place because a man has come along and said, "No, I'm having that, girls, thanks." Bridges' expected involvement this weekend had prompted a backlash, with a number of competitors understood to have been considering a boycott. Well done, girls. That's exactly what's happening, and that's the only way you're going to win. Following the controversy, British Cycling on Wednesday night called for a coalition to address the issue of transgender participation. It's simple. There should be no transgender participation. It should be biological women only. If a biological man wants to call himself a woman, that's fine, but he gets and he races against biological men. He's a biological man, he races men. He can get off his bike later, put a frock on and piss off. But while he's on that bike, he's a man. He races as a man. He's had all the advantages, so why should he take advantage of them? We believe all participants within our sport deserve more clarity around participation in elite competitions, and the concept of fairness is essential. Exactly, the concept of fairness. And these people have no concept of fairness, because if you're putting a man up against a woman, where the hell is the fairness in that? You've answered your own question. For this reason, British Cycling is calling for a coalition to understand more about how we can achieve fairness. I've just explained that. If you're biological male, you ride with the men. And if you're biological female, you ride with the ladies. And if you're a biological male who wants to be a female, tough shit, you're a man. In with the men. We want to encourage sporting governing bodies, athletes, the transgender and non-binary athlete community, the government and beyond to come together and find a better answer. Point on this one. If you're non-binary, you can't race as a man and you can't race as a lady. Can't race, can you? If you're transgender, that's fine. Be transgender. Go out into the world. Live your life however you want to be. But if you want to participate in a sport, you participate in your biological sex. Now you may say, oh, it's unfair. I've taken these and these and these and I've reduced my testosterone. Well, you know, that's a thing. That's a choice. No one forced you to do this. You've made a choice. Choices have consequences. You make the choice, you live with the consequence. It's not been forced upon you, so live with it. Now, if you want to be a lady, then be a lady. But you cannot race against them if you're biological male. And that's a choice, and that's a consequence of that choice. Meanwhile, it emerged on Wednesday that the International Swimming Governing Body, FINA, are to introduce a new transgender policy to avoid a repeat of the American Leah Thomas's recent victory at the NCAA Championships. The proposed policy will insist that trans women undergo at least 36 months of testosterone reduction therapy rather than a year. Yes, and I would also insist that they not be allowed to undergo male puberty. And if they've undergone male puberty, they're men for the purposes of sport. So well done to the world governing body of cycling, standing up and actually doing something right. Now I'm going to move on to a response to this. So I'm going to just click here. Exclusive. Aunt of trans rider Emily Bridges slams unfair decision to ban him from the race after female competitors threatened to boycott event. As Sharon Davis says, it's not transphobic to want fair sport, it's anti-female to not. And that's the problem. This aunt, right, says it's unfair to stop a man from racing a woman. She's obviously an idiot. Because the real unfairness is letting a man race a woman. So whatever she says is irrelevant, given how obviously stupid she is. But anyway, the aunt of transgender cyclist Emily Bridges told Mail Online today that barring her nephew from competing against Olympic hero Dame Laura Kenny and other women is unfair. As Sharon Davis declared, it's not transphobic to want fair sport, it's anti-female to not. Female riders threatened to pull out of the National Omnium Championships in Derby on Saturday before Mr. Bridges was blocked from racing against them because he had competed as a man until a few weeks ago. Well done, ladies. Well done. I congratulate you. This is the only way you're going to win. The story then goes on. It's basically what I've said before with the boycott and whatever, and the change of the rules. So I'm not going to go through the whole of this article. I was just showing the response there to this aunt who says it was unfair. Well done, ladies. The threatening to boycott is the only action you have. Now I'm going to come up and we'll round this off. So it may only be temporary, but at least this man will not be cycling against women this weekend. while the world governing body takes an active look at the whole issue. But if they've got any sense at all, I mean, it is plain as a pikestaff that you cannot have a man race a woman, even if that man has reduced his testosterone to a woman-like level, simply because of the advantages of having the male puberty and all the physical advantages that brings for competitive sport. It's just wrong. And if they want, I mean, Sharon Davis said, "Oh, maybe there should be an open category," but the open category, it's how can I put this? The open category is, well, I'm going to put it this way: it's shit, because you're going to have a male race, you're going to have a female race, and you're going to have an open race. But the only people who are actually going to compete in the open race are going to be men who aren't very good. Because the elite males will go and produce their world championship times, their Olympic record times. They'll be winning gold medals as men in the male event. And let us say, for example, we'll talk the 100 metre sprint. So you're going to get your prime top 100 metre runners that are going to do this event in 9.96 seconds. Then you're going to have the ladies event, and you're going to get the top lady runners who do it in, let us say, 12 seconds. And they're both worthy winners of their respective gold medals. The fastest man in the world is obviously going to be 2 seconds. The 100 metres is going to be 2 seconds faster than the fastest woman because of sheer physicality. But that's unfair, because I'm a trans male who now wants to be a lady, and I can't run as fast as a man, but I can run faster than the lady. So I want to remove the opportunity of women to win medals because I can't beat a man. Okay, well, we'll give you the open category, but the only people who go into the open category are going to be men. So what you're actually saying is, hey, have an Olympic gold, even though you're not a woman, but you can't beat a man. So it's like, it's gold medals for shit athletes. And that would therefore debase both the men's gold and the women's gold. So this option that has been put forward, the more I think about it, the more I realise it's crap. Because what you're getting with this option is, oh, we'll give medals to participants who aren't very good at their sport. Medals for everybody. If you turned up, hey, we'll give you an 8th place, you can have your wooden medal or whatever the 8th place gets, No, I'm afraid the only sensible way is you either delay your transitioning until you have retired from whatever your professional sport is, or you make the choice that you transition, but part of the cost of that transition is that you can no longer perform in your sport. Because it was manifestly unfair to women. And to create a special category for men who are not very good just debases the whole principle of being a world champion. It's difficult. And it's upsetting, I'm sure. People will be upset. But what do you do? Do you just want to beat women? Is that it? Do you want to negate women? And it's wrong. Anyway, I'm going to round off here. If you like what you hear and see on this channel, please hit the subscribe button if you haven't already. Ring the bell for notifications for future output. Leave a like and leave a comment. And until next time, stay safe, stay well, and goodbye.